How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Foo Show. I'm your host, Coach Ali Foo Show. In this week's episode number 23, we'll be talking about something very straightforward because I really do believe that this is something that everyone has to know right off the bat because of course when it comes to having fitness goals you want to know like the best ways to actually achieve those goals. So this is precisely why this week's episode is going to be my top 3 tips for faster results. I know that sounds vague, but I don't know another way to phrase it because these tips are really, I would say, I guess to the best of my ability, that I think these tips are really, really helpful. That's why I wanted to dedicate a full episode on these tips for everyone to achieve their fitness goals much faster or in a much more predictable, timeline. So, yeah, let's get straight to the point. Let's now talk about tip number 1, that for you guys to achieve your goals in a faster rate or a more guaranteed rate is that you guys have to understand this term, specificity. Now, what does that mean? It's hard to say. When I first learned that word, I kept on saying but anyway, back to the point. Specificity. What does that mean? Is that I need you guys to understand that if you have a specific goal, you need to do the specific necessary steps to achieve that goal. Now that sounds kind of like too simple, but it often gets overlooked by a lot of people because people they're kind of vague. We don't want you to be vague at all when it comes to the gym. When it comes to your fitness goals, the more specific you are with what you want, the more specific you'll know what steps you'll have to take. Because if you're vague, you're going to be lost. So be specific with what you want, be specific or be honest with yourself with what fitness goal that you'll have, and that's going to paint a picture on what path or what approach you will have to take to achieve those goals. Now, let's go talk about examples. If your specific goal is to have a stronger deadlift, let's be more specific than that. If your specific goal is, let's say, a 400-pound deadlift, you will have to deadlift. I know that sounds too simple, but trust me when I say this, a lot of people don't really understand how important that is. If you have a specific goal on having a 400-pound deadlift, you will have to really know that you'll have to deadlift your way until 400 pounds. And now I'll go into more detail for that later. But another example would be if you have a specific goal of bigger arms, to really grow your arms to a bigger size, then you'll have to do specific arm training work. You can't just go to the gym and do any random exercise. I mean, doing an exercise is great. It's better than nothing at all. We all know that already, that working out, though you might not be doing the most, to use the term, the optimal exercise, the optimal approach, exercising on its own is still really good to begin with. But if your specific goal is to get bigger triceps, bigger biceps, what do you have to do? Do some direct tricep work, and do some direct bicep work. That's pretty simple. So do bicep curls if you want bigger biceps. Now, the reason why I want to talk about specificity is because this is really the main way for you to achieve your goals. If you avoid doing this, for example, let's go back to the bigger biceps. If you just go to the gym and do a set of lat pull downs, which is great, that's going to work on your biceps, sure. But that's also going to work on your back. Is that a bad thing? No. But what if your back is already pretty developed and your back is too developed to the point that whenever you do a pull down, your back is the only your back is the only muscle group that is working. So you're doing a lot of pull downs, you're doing a lot of pull ups, and your back is getting stronger because that's the muscle group that's working. And what happens after 4, 5, or 6 months, you realize that your back's the only thing that got better and not your arms. And now your arms are lagging part. That's because you didn't do the specific work to get bigger arms. I was guilty of this because before when I was really starting out, when it came to my own workouts, I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to get stronger, and this is holistic. I wanted to be bigger and stronger. I think that's what every I guess to use the term stereotypical man born in the 90s, maybe even the 2000s, that's what they want. Like if you're in your teens, your early 20s, you want to be bigger and stronger. That's what most men want. On that note, what I saw from what the internet told me is that if you want to get big, you gotta lift big. And of course, that does make a lot of sense. So, what did I do? I got into the big three. That's how I actually got into powerlifting because I wanted to get bigger primarily. So, I did a lot of squats, I did a lot of bench press and deadlifting. And sure, I got bigger, but where did I get bigger? I got, of course, I'm not the biggest guy. I want to say that right off the bat. I got bigger lats. I got a bigger spinal erector. I got a bigger butt. I got bigger pecs. But if you were to look at my physique, my shoulders, my arms, I guess my calves, but good thing my calves aren't in frame right now. They're very, very underdeveloped. The only muscle groups that got bigger were my thighs, my torso, and my ass. That's literally it. And now I think this is what people call like the spider physique, wherein you got a thick torso, but then your arms are very skinny. So that's how I was, and that's how I guess I still am. But I've been doing a bit more direct arm work, and that's been helping quite a lot. But that's a good example that I was very. I did big lifts because that's what the internet told me. To get big, you gotta lift big. And it worked, but not to the extent that I wanted. I wanted to grow big holistically. And in return, what happened? Just my torso, just my legs grew bigger and not my arms. And that's why, and not my arms and shoulders, which is something that I really, really wanted to prioritize as I realized that they're super duper small. So yeah, that's precisely why my very, very first tip for you guys to get the results that you want and to get them faster is that you have to be very, very specific with your training. And on top of that, on top of specificity, let's talk about the sequence. If you feel like your arms, I'll just use myself as an example because it's easier to speak of from experience. My arms and my shoulders aesthetically are my weak points. That was because aside from me doing powerlifting work, is that whenever the accessory part of the workout would come, of the accessory part of the training session, you do your example. On a bench day, you do your bench, pull-ups, rows, bench variation. And then whenever on the program it said curls or tricep extend, like tricep work, I'd half-ass it or I'd completely skip it. That's because I would be gassed out by the end of the workout after doing the main work, or I'd just be lazy at that point. And of course, that added to the fact that my arms and shoulders did not grow, which is precisely why a tip within the specificity tip is to really prioritize that in the workout by doing that first. You might be wondering, isn't that weird? Because the internet said that you should start your workouts with the big compound lifts and then do the smaller isolation work towards the end of the workout. And sure, that can work or that will work. Absolutely. But if your specific goal is to work on your arms, then do your curls, do your tricep extensions at the start of the workout, and you're gonna dramatically see a big difference because that's the first thing. You have all the energy, you have zero fatigue at the start of the workout. You'll be able to lift a bit heavier, or if not heavier, just better. Because example, if you're gonna be curling 30 pounds at the end of the workout after doing pull-ups and bench, sure you can do like 30 pounds for like 8 to 10 quality reps. But now, if you're going to do that at the start of your workout, you can probably bang out 12 to 15 quality reps. And that's going to, because of that, that will promote better growth specifically in the target areas, which is for me, would be I would do a lot of lateral raises. I do curls, tricep extension work at the start. And I can see, of course, I don't have, again, I'll say it again, a lot of disclaimers. I know I don't have the biggest arms, but I feel like my arms have gotten bigger ever since I started working on my arms. Sounds kind of stupid, but then you just really have to prioritize what you want to work on. And then that's really what's going to grow the fastest. That's when it comes to strength. That's when it comes to size. But if you have a goal, if your specific goal is about weight loss or like weight management, how is that going to work? To be honest, way back, well, not way back, like a few years ago, when I was starting out as a coach, If a client came to me, or like anybody who asked my opinion on the matter, on the best way to lose fat, it's by strength training. I would say, though that answer may not be the best answer for that specific question, I would still defend myself by saying that that was the best answer for their the rest of their life. Because it's hard to recommend a diet right off the bat to somebody who I don't really know, because, specificity, or like being very I guess it's really situational. The answer is always going to be it depends. It's always situational. But the answer that can never be wrong is by recommending a beginner to get stronger. So that's precisely why whenever the topic of fat loss came about, I would say get stronger, like go through strength training. And that's going to work. I'm going to defend myself. That's going to work, but that answer fails 6 to 9 months after that person starts. So, example, 6 months of training, they're going to get leaner because, of course, more exertion from their body. They're going to get stronger. But after 6 months, if they're not as lean as they want yet, strength training or them adding 5 pounds to their deadlift isn't going to make them leaner. Why? Because when it comes to the topic, when it comes to the conversation of losing fat, you will really have to focus on your nutrition. That's something that I knew that that's definitely going to be the best way to perfect, or to be more precise, to be more specific. But I kept on saying strength training because that's an answer. That's a recommendation that will never be wrong at the start. But if, again, in the conversation of specificity, if you have a specific goal of losing body fat, the specific work that you would need to do would be to look at your nutrition, your calories, how much food generally speaking, how much food you're eating. Have a good idea on how you normally eat on your day to day, on your week to week, and then gradually reduce that. Of course, there's a lot, like we can talk about the protein, the fat, the carbs, etc. But generally speaking, if you're after fat loss, you have to some degree, in whatever form, you have to be eating less calories than you've been currently eating, not by adding 5 pounds to your squat, your bench, or deadlift. So it might sound, of course, for the advanced people listening to this, that might seem like a no-brainer, but this has to be talked about, especially to the people who just started out like roughly 6 months ago. If you have a specific goal, take the specific steps. If you're after getting a stronger deadlift, let's say a 400-pound deadlift, you have to deadlift 200, 300, 350, and then make your way up to the 400 in time. If you want bigger arms, train your arms directly. If you really find them as a strong weak, if you really find that they're a weak point, prioritize them at the start of the workout, and you're going to dramatically see results. If you're after fat loss, then you have to, of course, still go to the gym. I'm not saying don't go to the gym, but if you're after fat loss, on top of your weight training, you have to be very, very aware and responsible, or have the awareness on how much you're actually eating. That's going to be the specific way on achieving your specific goals. That's tip number one. That's a long-winded answer of just, knowing what to do, or knowing what you want, and knowing the necessary steps that it'll take to achieve that specific goal. The second thing, this is going to be a shorter tip to discuss, but the second thing is logistics. Focus on making things as logistically convenient for you as much as possible. What do I mean by that? And this can be in the context of, basically, of course, we're going to talk about it in the context of lifting and the context of your nutrition. When it comes to lifting, the biggest one is, where do you lift? Where do you work out? Where do you train? And how easy or how convenient is it for you to go to that place that you're training out or working out? Because a lot of the time, people are going to be so eager to sign. Let's talk about the training first. People are often eager to sign up for this one great gym. Let's say that, you see that there's a nice powerlifting gym. It's great. The environment is great. But if it's with the how traffic the Philippines or Metro Manila is, if it's going to be an hour of travel time per way, so like 2 hours round trip for you, is that something that you can sustain for however, like how many times that you'll be working out? Let's say that you're gonna work out 4 times a week. Are you really willing to go a total of 8 hours within your week would be dedicated just for transportation, just for the gym? And of course, if you're willing to do that, that's perfectly fine. If you're a hardcore lifter and lifting is really your main hobby, then go ahead. And especially if you're a competitive athlete, then you really want to go for that environment because that's really a big thing. Environment matters quite a lot. But what if you're not a competitive athlete? What if you're not a major like lifting enthusiast or hobbyist? What if you're just somebody who wants to be healthy? Are you really going to travel that much? Are you going to take that much time out of your stressful day from work, stressful day from managing your family or like keeping your household? Is it worth dedicating 8 or 10 hours within the week just for transportation? I would argue that maybe not. So, when it comes to making things easier for you logistically, when it comes to the workout, pick a gym, pick a venue that's so easy for you to go to. I mean, I have a home gym because it's convenient for me. Even though I love working out in other gyms, etc., I cannot let go of the convenience that having a home gym gives me. It really makes life so much easier. Or example, if I didn't have a home gym, I'll just pick the nearest gym because of course, if you're busy, you don't want to waste time on traffic, waste time on your commute. So that's when it comes to the logistics of the workout. Now, when it comes to the logistics or like the convenience of eating, for you to get the fastest results, let's talk about fat loss because it's something that I guess a lot of people love to talk about. Don't make it hard for you to be consistent with your diet. Or, in other words, make it easier by removing a lot of the temptations that you normally would have. Like, example, if you're somebody who tends to binge on a lot of chocolates, chips, popcorn, or like popcorn's my favorite, as much as possible, don't let it be in your house. Don't let it be in your pantry. Don't let it be in your kitchen or your snack corner, whatever. Don't have chocolates, don't have chips there because that's really going to you're gonna fight yourself every meal or every time that you walk by the kitchen. You're gonna fight the urge to get those chips, to get those chocolates. So logistically, again, it sounds super simple, sounds super like basic, but again, a lot of people don't understand that these basics or this something that seems too normal is actually what's really going to drive their progress or going to guarantee that they're getting they'll progress at a good amount of time or at the timetable that they had for themselves. You have to make sure that these things are easier. So, and of course, what if you're somebody who's not after fat loss? What if you're somebody who wants to just build a lot of muscle and then you don't have enough protein? Like you, as a Filipino, knowing the Filipino diet, normally you don't have a lot of protein in your diet and you just keep on eating more rice. I mean, of course, rice is cool and all. It's great. It's good, great carbs, great for energy. But if you look at it and you're not eating enough protein, then you're probably not going to progress. You're probably not going to get as much muscle as you want. So, logistically or convenience wise, already guarantee that there's going to be a lot of protein in your house. By how do you do that? Simply when you're in the grocery store, avoid all the junk and then go straight to the meat section, get all the meats that you want. And speaking of convenience as well, I never buy anything with bones. And I know that might be the bit more expensive option. No, I know it is, but it's just so much easier. I am not a good chef or I'm not a good cook. So if there's anything that has a bone in it or like, for me, I just consider that a hassle or a struggle already. Example, if it's chicken with bones or like any of the beef or pork cuts have bones, it's just much harder for me as compared to, let's say, ground beef, as compared to, let's say, pork sukiyaki, beef sukiyaki cuts, or like any of those fillet cuts. Those are just make life so much easier. So because that is an easier way for me to consume more protein, that's what I go for. Because logistically or like convenience wise, attitude wise, I know that if there's a bit more stress or a bit more hassle that I'll be encountering, I might not eat the enough. I might not eat enough protein, or I might not eat the appropriate amount of protein that I would need for my fitness goals. So again, whatever it is that might work for you, you really have to go for what is easier. I know that might mean that, oh, might go for the more expensive option, you might go for the not as fun option. But if it guarantees that you're going to show up in the gym, if that guarantees that you're going to eat the amount of nutrients that you need on a day-to-day basis, on a week-to-week basis, then I would consider that a win, because it doesn't have to be the most fun all the time. What matters is that you get the work done. So that's why logistically, make sure that it is as convenient for you as much as possible. The third and last tip, this one, I thought I'd be going about this quite fast. I actually thought that this episode would be less than 10 minutes. I guess I'm never concise, right? But anyway, the third and last tip is going to be start with the end in mind and then work yourself backwards. This tip is not new, but it's something that has to be reminded. This has to be mentioned again and again. And this is why this is the third tip, because I wanted to discuss the first, specificity and logistics, because those will contribute to how you will set up with this third tip. Start with the end in mind and then work yourself backwards. Let's go for the situation that I mentioned a while ago. If you want a 400-pound deadlift, and then let's say that realistically you want to do that in your competition, and then you have, let's say, 9 months to prepare, and your best deadlift is 200 pounds. I'm just spitting numbers right now. You have 9 months to move your 200-pound deadlift into a 400-pound deadlift. That is possible. Is it easy? But that's the first thing that you'll have to talk about. Is the goal that you have within the timeline, the time frame that you have, is it first possible? This one is a bit more ambitious, because you're basically trying to double your best deadlift from 200 pounds to 400 pounds. If you're a beginner, I would say that, wow, you have a strong deadlift for 200 pounds if you're an absolute beginner. Then maybe 400 pounds is quite realistic. If you're somebody who's been you've been lifting already for a few years and 200 pounds is where you are, then I would say that maybe aiming for a 400-pound deadlift within 9 months isn't the most realistic way to go about things. So again, start with the end in mind, work yourself backwards, but also be realistic. That has to be talked about. You have to ask yourself if it's realistic. You have to talk to your coach if you have one, if the goal that you have in mind within the time frame that you're allowing yourself, if it's actually realistic to begin with. But all right, let's go to that situation again. You're currently at 200 pounds. You have 9 months to reach 400 pounds. You have to work yourself backwards. So example, at the 9th month, you want 400 pounds. Within 2 months before that. So let's say that the competition is in December. You're supposed to at least deadlift 350 by around, let's say, early Burr months. So let's say September, October, 350 should be lifted already with rather some ease. Then of course by November, maybe 370 or 380. Because you don't want to just be lifting 200, 250, and then like the low 300s in the Burr months. No, you have to ensure that within a few months leading up to the competition with the goal of 400 pounds, you have to really plot it all out. That by this time, you should be lifting this weight. By this time, you should be lifting this other weight, this heavier weight. So knowing the time frame, knowing what goal you'll have, that's going to allow you to have a better idea on when to plot out mini goals. So if the major goal is to lift 400 pounds, you have to set timelines within mini pit stops, I would say. If you have 9 months, try to have a mini goal every 3 months or every 2.5 months. So let's say by the first 3 months, hopefully you got 275, 300. And then when you're in the halfway point, hopefully you got 315 to 350. Then a month or two leading up to the competition, hopefully you got to hit 375, 380, in the hope that once meet day comes, once you're actually on the platform in the competition, that 400 is going to be a lot more predictable, or a lot more, or like a higher chance for it to actually be lifted. So start with the end in mind, work yourself backwards. You have to make sure that your program is really tailored in the sense that it knows where you are, it also knows where you want to be, but you also have to know where you'll be in time, a month, 2 months after, 3 months after, so that you'll have a better idea if 400 pounds is really realistic. Or maybe, an example, like if you plot everything out really well, what if it turns out you can lift 450? So it's really nice to really track yourself, be very realistic with the time frame that you have, and then so that you can understand, okay, because of how I've been progressing from this month to this month, next month I can predict that this will be my result, or I can predict that I'll be able to lift this weight. So again, start with the end in mind, which is 400. Work yourself backwards, month by month, and hopefully that will help you understand how well you are progressing each phase or each block of your training. But yeah, that's about it. Once again, let's recap all those 3 tips. And I know these are not specific, ironic, because the first tip is specificity. But these aren't, like precise hacks, tricks, or whatever, or secrets to, getting faster results, because there really is no secret. You just really have to work on your fundamentals. These 3 tips will really set the foundation of your training. These 3 tips are really the fundamentals. And if you master these basics, these fundamentals, without a doubt, you will be able to knock your goals out of the park. Yet you'll really achieve whatever you want to set for yourself. Again, a quick recap. The first tip is all about the specificity, making sure that you know your specific goal and that you know the specific work that you'll have to do to achieve that goal. The second one would be the logistics. Don't make things harder for yourself than they have to be. It doesn't always have to be fun. It doesn't always have to be grand and exciting. It just has to be doable, and then you actually get it done. It doesn't have to be like, always like the party vibes, or like celebrate, like really just, like outrageous fun workouts, crazy diets, etc. It just has to be something that for yourself as the individual that you are. You know that you can do it, and you know that you can do it within the time frame that you've set for yourself. And the third and the last tip would be to start with the end goal in mind and then work yourself backwards, because that's going to allow you to track and be honest with yourself, for you to really know where you are, and you'll be able to point yourself on where you want to go afterwards, so that you can finally achieve your fitness goals, especially since, this is February. It's still the start of the year. Hopefully that the resolutions that you've made, if you had made any fitness resolutions, hopefully these tips will definitely help you out to get those results, and of course, get them at a rate that would be a bit more realistic. But of course, that's all that I have to say for this week. This was episode number 23. Actually, if you can look back at episode number 21, just 2 episodes ago, I also laid out a lot of helpful tips to set yourself up for a successful training year, a successful workout year. If you haven't seen episode 21 yet, please do check it out. If that's all, I'll see you guys next week for episode number 24.